Welcome everybody to the second ever episode of Stark Contrast. Me and Mas are here today to talk some NFL free agency after a crazy week of multiple signings. So we're both really excited to get into it and talk some NFL.
Let's do it. Let's cut to it, man.
So first off, there was mass chaos in the running back market. So many guys going to so many different places. A lot of moves being made. Probably the biggest one, in my opinion, would be Saquon to the Eagles and interdivision signing. A lot of people mixed feelings on it. So, Mas, what are your thoughts, man? You're an NFC East guy yourself.
I love it. I love the drama between the Eagles and the Giants. I am really for this trade because we don't know. Saquon's a question mark, and the Eagles paid a lot of money for him. So hopefully he doesn't work out for the Eagles, from my perspective. But I think for the Eagles, it made no sense. There was no need to get rid of Swift and pick up Saquon, in my opinion. But that's the decision that they made, and we'll see this year how Saquon serves them. But it came with a price tag. It
Yeah,
wasn't cheap, and Saquon still. We don't know how healthy he's going to be all year,
yeah.
so we'll
3 years, $38 million for Saquon, who's an injury-prone running back. And, in this day and age, you don't really pay running backs a lot of money, and there was a lot of money given to him. But I think for the Eagles and just the way last season ended and the direction that they're trying to go in, that a big move like this maybe could help them. Obviously, there was a lot of question marks around Nick Sirianni if he was going to keep his job. He's an offensive guy, and he wanted a playmaker, a guy who can make splash plays like Saquon Barkley. Saquon, in his career with the Giants, has been running um, behind the second worst offensive line in run blocking, and now he's going to the Eagles, who are first in run blocking. So, pending that he can stay healthy, I think personally that he can make a huge impact for the Eagles, who are trying to turn things around here after a bad end to last season. I'm not going to say I like the move, but I think within the Eagles organization and the direction they're trying to go in, that I understand why they made the move. So,
I I understand where you're coming from. Also, uh, just from the Giants' perspective, I forget who there was an ex-Giants running back, I think, that made
yeah,
uh,
Tiki Barber.
Barber. Yeah, he commented on the trade. I think just from a Giants perspective, the fire that this is going to light in the whole team, the whole organization, when they play the Eagles and go up against Saquon, it's just there's going to be a lot of bad blood, and I think those games are going to be really fun to watch this year.
Yeah. Giants now have Devin Singletary, so big drop off at the running back position. He did have a pretty decent year with the Texans, but I wouldn't go as far to say he's as impactful as Saquon Barkley. Moving on,
Yeah, before we move on though, the Giants also signed, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they sign Drew Lock?
I think so. It's going to be
Believe
interesting to see the quarterback situation there with Daniel Jones coming back and everything. So Giants not looking too hot right now. Might be in rebuild mode. They did spend a lot of money on Brian Burns though to stack up that D line. So I'm not really sure the direction they're trying to go in. If they're in a rebuild or if they are trying to win games, it's just a little confusing to me. Um, but hey, we'll see next season. I don't expect them to be contenders, but you never know.
Do you think there's going to be a quarterback controversy or between the two of them?
I
I
mean,
mean, if it were me, there's definitely a quarterback controversy.
yeah,
Drew Lock
for
played
sure.
the second half of the season really well. Daniel Jones has been injured, has been an injury-prone quarterback, and has not been stellar.
But
So
but then again, Moss, they did pay him 4 years, $160 million. He's making $40 million a year. They went all in on him last year,
why would they
which
even sign Drew Lock
yeah.
as a
So
backup?
As a backup, possibly.
Start
So,
again.
like I said, the New York Giants are really confusing me with the direction they're trying to go in here. They're freeing up cap, then spending it on other players. It's really rebuild or go all in my
Yeah.
opinion, and they're kind of on that line in between right now.
Yeah.
So not sure there.
We'll
Another
see.
big signing, though, Derrick Henry to the Ravens. He's on a 2-year deal. The Ravens, obviously contenders. This just stacks them up even more, and they're definitely going to be in the conversation to make a Super Bowl run. How do you think, signing a guy like Derrick Henry is going to help them moving forward?
I'm irate because the Dallas Cowboys were supposed to be his number one landing spot. And according to Derrick Henry a few days ago, he said that the Dallas Cowboys did not even reach out to him. So after losing Tony Pollard and having absolutely nothing in the backfield except for Rico Dowdle, who was a decent backup,
You
we
got Deuce Vaughn, but he's 5'5".
yeah, no, he's not going to offer too much as far as I'm concerned. But Derrick Henry would have been a huge addition to the Cowboys, and I think just a perfect signing. But we'll talk about the Cowboys later on. But for the Ravens, this is an incredible signing. I think their team, their offense specifically, was really strong this past season. And signing a big name player like Derrick Henry, even though he's not fresh, he's been in the league for a few years, and running backs have had issues with longevity as of recent. I think putting him in a new atmosphere with a very successful offense will just kind of light a fire in him. And I'm excited to see the Ravens offense this year should be close to unstoppable.
As a Steelers fan, it was definitely painful to see that notification, but the tandem with him and Lamar Jackson in that backfield and with some of the other weapons now, like Zay Flowers at receiver, that offense will definitely, in my opinion, be top 5, maybe even top 3 this upcoming season. Now, they did lose both their coordinators, but I still think the Ravens are going to be one of the teams atop the AFC. So this was a powerful move from the Ravens, in my opinion, and I expect big things from Derrick Henry. Even though he's 30 years old, I still think in that offense he can make a huge impact and rack up a lot of yards. So after that, let's move on into what we were talking about, what you were talking about with the Cowboys. Obviously, Tony Pollard goes to the Titans. All the running backs go elsewhere. Dallas made basically one move in free agency, signing Eric Kendricks. And this is a very thin running back draft class. So it leaves a huge hole in that backfield over there in Dallas. What do you think? What do you think the move is within the Dallas organization to cover up that hole?
I couldn't tell you because what they did originally with Zeke is they moved him on and they brought up the backup Pollard, thinking that he had the qualities to be a starting running back and just a every down running back. And I knew from the jump that that wasn't going to be the case. And Pollard clearly did not have as good of a year this year as he did the previous. And I love Rico Dowdle, and he's a good backup running back. But if they move him into the starting spot, that would, in my opinion, just not be a good move. He's not like a pounding running back that's going to get you a first down on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. So I think we need one of those. I did see rumors of the Cowboys potentially looking into A.J. Dillon, which wouldn't be bad if they had him and Dowdle kind of 2 running back punch. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but we need to do something. Again, the draft class for running backs is not the strongest. So hopefully maybe we can get A.J. Dillon or figure something out, because as of right now, the gap that we have without Pollard clearly needs to be filled.
Yeah, I could see the Cowboys maybe going to like a running back tandem, maybe signing a higher end backup and using a guy like maybe Cavante Turpin in a Debo Samuel role in the backfield. A lot of motion and end around stuff, but definitely scary as a Dallas fan to see that happen in the running back market and to be left out without a running back like that.
So disappointing. Jerry Jones says we're going all in. We did absolutely nothing. We signed Eric Kendricks, who I think is a good signing, especially given that Leighton Vander Esch has been very, very injury prone. He's definitely going to add more stability into our linebacker core. But on the offensive side of the ball, like the regular season last year was perfect. And if we re-signed Pollard, we probably still would have been fine on the offensive side of the ball. We did lose our center. We now lost Pollard. So we're gonna have to figure things out here and try to pick up where we left off last regular season and just forget about what happened in the playoffs.
Sorry, you're gonna have to excuse me here. My dog's barking, so I gotta go let her out.
You're good.
I'll be right back. Sorry about that, everybody. Back into it here. So moving on from Dallas, another big signing, Josh Jacobs to the Packers. He got a 4-year, $48 million deal, big deal there. And Packers moving on from Aaron Jones, who's going to Minnesota. This is a good signing for the Packers. They're an offensive minded team, and a guy like Josh Jacobs could really help in that NFC North division, competing with the Vikings and the Lions. We obviously saw what the Packers did in the postseason last year. I think they can be real contenders with the offense they have now. And this Josh Jacobs move, in my opinion, was a really good move to make this offseason.
Uh, it's interesting. I think the Packers, did they save money by signing Jacobs or
Probably not, because Aaron
okay.
Jones, I don't think, was making as
Yeah,
much money. So they did save a little cap by cutting Aaron Jones, but they essentially spend it back on
they're
Josh
ready to
Jacobs.
keep up with- yeah. I think Jacobs is a solid running back. It's interesting that Aaron Jones also went to a division rival, going to the Vikings. So we'll see how that pans out. Also want to talk a little bit about this division because it's going to be interesting. You have the Packers who are not. I would fear the Packers going into this year, especially what happened last season, going into this season with momentum, signing Josh Jacobs now. They have someone else in the backfield who is definitely a threat. You have the Lions, who I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year, but they're definitely a threat and they're a solid team. You have the Bears, who could be a decent team. They showed some potential last year. They could put up a fight depending on, if they make other moves and what they do with their quarterback situation. I don't know how this division is going to go, but I think signing Josh Jacobs as a replacement is just what the Packers needed to keep themselves like in the fight.
Yeah, the NFC North is really becoming a loaded division, much like the AFC North. The North divisions could be ruling the NFL. There's talent across the board with all four teams, at the running back position and the receiver position. So I'm really excited to see what everybody does in that NFC North. And I really couldn't tell you right now who's going to win that division. Um, but like the Josh Jacobs move, I think it was a good move. And, you know, the running back market is really crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
just
an-
shuffling around.
yeah. Another big signing, Austin Eckler goes to the Commanders. Um, this one really surprised me. I would not have expected him to go to a team like the Commanders, and I don't know the direction the Commanders are going in either. There's still a toss up what they're going to do at QB. They do have a high draft pick, could get a guy like Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Um, but they're still kind of thin at receiver, not the best defense. They did get Austin Eckler pretty cheap, but he had a down year last year. So I'm not really sure I like the move, because I don't think they're contenders, but we'll see what happens.
I have a little bit of a different opinion here. I'm going to say watch out for the Commanders next season because I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. Um, they might be at best 500, but I think that by signing Eckler, I think that's a pretty solid move on their part. And they made a couple other signings. I believe the Cowboys center actually went to, did I say the Redskins? Commanders. But I believe he went to the Commanders. So that should bolster their offensive line. You never know. They weren't. they weren't awful. In some games last season, they put up a fight against some bigger teams. They put up a fight against the Eagles that one game. I think they have stuff to work with. I think signing Austin Eckler is a pretty bold move. And if he performs, I don't know how their line is, but obviously, again, they just got a center. So hopefully we'll see. But that could add some chaos into the NFC East. We'll see.
Yep, for sure. So that was really the main stuff for the running back market. There was obviously some other stuff that happened. Gus Edwards went to the Chargers. We'll get into the Chargers later with some of the stuff they're doing. But let's get into some very impactful signings that are going to help the directions of some teams, specifically the Falcons signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal. $45 million a year for a 35-year-old. That is very concerning to me. I think Kirk Cousins is a phenomenal quarterback, a top 10 guy. I think he can really help the Falcons, but I don't necessarily like the deal paying a 35-year-old $45 million a year when he's probably only got 1 to 2 good years left in him. I really think the Falcons are in win now mode, trying to win that division. I think they'll be good next year and maybe the year after, but it's kind of blurry beyond that point with what they're going to do at the QB position.
I think what you said makes a lot of sense. The Falcons are in win now mode specifically because of the strength of their division. It's one of the weakest divisions in the NFL. They have a chance to win that division and make the playoffs. And that's something that the Falcons haven't done in a while. And it's something that clearly they're trying to do by signing Kirk Cousins to, what was it, a 3-year deal?
4-year deal.
4-year deal. So now, again, you said Cousins will probably only be in his peak for another maybe 2. But by signing Cousins and by showing that they're trying to build a good team now, again, I don't know what it's going to do for them in the future. It might not pay off in 4 or 5 years because they're probably going to be right back to where they were before. But if they make a run this year and make it all the way to the playoffs, winning that weaker division, then we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. New coaching down there in Atlanta. They just signed Darnell Mooney as a weapon for Kirk Cousins. They have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. I definitely think that the Falcons could be very good this year. Yeah, I think they could be very good this year. I like the Kirk Cousins signing, but not really the deal. I think they're spending too much, wasting too much cap. I think they could have maybe got him a little cheaper or signed him for less years and, been able to move on and stay in win now mode down the road. But it's not really seeming like they're going to do that. But watch out for the Falcons next year. They could be contenders in the NFC if their pieces align. Moving on to another big deal, Russell Wilson to my Steelers. There's very mixed opinions on what Russell Wilson is going to do for this team. My opinion, he's a good fit. I mentioned this last podcast that the way the Steelers play football is run the ball and play defense. They have a great defense. They just signed the best linebacker in free agency in Patrick Queen. They have, in my opinion, the best running back duo in the league with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And Russ is not going to be asked to throw the ball 40 to 50 times a game. He's got a number one guy in George Pickens. So I think he fits, but I have seen people say that it's not really that big of an upgrade from a guy like Kenny Pickett because Russ is washed at this point. So, Mas, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's the biggest signing of the whole free agency. In my opinion, I think Russell Wilson going to the Steelers puts them immediately into the mix. Pickett was solid at times, but I think Wilson is a veteran quarterback. He can be a game manager, and he's seen everything. He's been in the league for years. He's been to the Super Bowl. He has talent. He has a good arm. He's a good quarterback. His situation in Denver just didn't work out, and his time in Seattle was overall a success. So I think Russell Wilson is the perfect guy for the Steelers. Like you said, he fits in well with the offense, the structure of the offense, whatever. Also, he's a veteran quarterback that can come into this system and just place the ball where you need him to place it, when you need him to place it. And again, not throw the ball 40 times a game. Just stand back, give him a little bit of time, and let him make. And the passing game is going to be open because you said Najee Harris, they got the 2 running back punch, they got a strong defense. The action things are going to be open for the Steelers, and hopefully Russell Wilson can just manage the game and throw the football. And as a good veteran quarterback, I think he can do that. And I think he can take the Steelers very far this year, even though they have arguably the toughest division in the NFL.
I love what you said there with the play action game. Arthur Smith is known as an offensive coordinator. He did it with Tennessee to run the ball and run a lot of play action and push the ball downfield, which is perfect for a guy like George Pickens, who wants the ball in his hand, is a very big, deep threat, and could change the whole game at times. So I really like the move. And also, it was a smart move. They're getting him 1 year, $1.2 million.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, and Denver's paying $38 million just to get rid of him, taking a huge cap hit. So the Steelers really exploiting this chance here to get a veteran leader who can definitely put them into contention. I wouldn't say they would go as far as to be a Super Bowl contender, but definitely a team that can win a playoff game and compete
sure.
in the AFC North, which I think we can all agree is the toughest division in football.
Right. Yeah.
So very good signing, in my opinion. Now, big trade here, one I was not expecting, was Keenan Allen to Chicago. Really caught me off guard and really has me confused on what the Chargers are doing after signing a coach like Jim Harbaugh, who I would thought would be maybe aggressive in this free agency, trying to get pieces for Justin Herbert to, make a run in the AFC West and compete with the Chiefs. But then they go out, they cut Mike Williams, trade Keenan Allen, get rid of Austin Eckler.
Yep.
I don't see the vision here from the Chargers. Your thoughts, Mons?
Looks like they're wiping a clean slate. They still have Herbert, but they now have not too many pieces around him. And I don't know if Harbaugh's trying to rebuild this team completely, or at least this offense. But I don't expect the Chargers to be contenders this year. And with a coach like Harbaugh, again, I thought they would be aggressive. I thought they would try to take what they have and kind of maximize it for this year and see where they go from there. But it looks like Harbaugh's starting from scratch, and all they have left really is the main piece of Justin Herbert. But they got to give him something around him. I mean, he lost 3 main offensive weapons, and we're just starting the offseason. So,
yeah, very concerning. Their number 1 guy now is Quentin Johnston, a first-round pick who had a terrible rookie season. So I'll be intrigued to see what they do in the draft. If it is a rebuild, maybe trade out of that top 10, because I think they have a top 10 pick, and maybe get some pieces or some more draft capital for future years. But yeah, really not seeing the vision from the Chargers right now, which I thought was a team that was going to go all in and going to go and win now mode, because they did have a lot of pieces. They might have been on the older side, but I definitely did not expect this from that organization.
No, not at all. And it's nice for the Bears too. They added another offensive weapon. We'll see what they do with their quarterback situation, but if they figure things out there, now they have another weapon in Allen, and we'll see. I mean, they could put up a fight next year in that NFC North division.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because they now have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. DeAndre Swift is definitely a serviceable running back. They have the number 1 overall pick, which is probably going to be Caleb Williams. And I could even see them maybe making a trade to get another pick in that top 5, like the Texans did last year, and get a guy like maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. and really have good weapons for Caleb Williams. And they have decent pieces on that defense with Jalen Johnson at cornerback. Like, I could really see the Bears becoming a contender team this year and knocking off some of those NFC North teams. So I'm really excited to see what they do in the draft. They've had a good free agency, and I like the direction that the team is headed.
Let me tell you something. If I'm a Bears fan, I'd be really excited right now, but I really think the best move is to keep Fields. I think keep Fields, trade back in the draft. Now you have, well, he talked about this last time. The city loves Fields. He proved a little bit last season that he has what it takes. You built, now you have Swift behind him. You have Keenan Allen, and who's the other receiver you mentioned?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. So you have two strong receivers. You got a solid running back. You have experience with the city and with the team. You take that first round pick, you get maybe, like you said, another top 5 pick. You pick up another receiver, you pick up somebody else that can be a rookie star on this team. And now you have some serious firepower, and Fields will have confidence in him because the team stuck by him, believed in him, and now he has an offense around him. I'd be excited if I were a Bears fan, but I personally really do think that they should keep Fields. I think keep Fields and move back the draft pick and get some other weapons around him.
I'm going to have to disagree here. I like Justin Fields. I think he can be a playmaker, a guy who can, do it with his legs and make things happen. But from him, like from a quarterback perspective and throwing from the pocket, he's just not at that elite level. And I think at this point, with how free agency has played out and what I think the Bears will do, I think Justin Fields might end up being a backup to Caleb Williams. I think the upside of Caleb Williams is just too big to take a chance at Justin Fields when you're in that number 1 position. So I personally think the Bears will go with Caleb Williams. I don't necessarily think that Justin Fields is the right decision for them. I know I may have said it last week that the city was behind him, and they probably are still behind him, but the numbers just aren't there in the pocket for him to really be an elite quarterback in the league.
Well, we'll see what they do, Zay. We'll see. I don't know. I think they should keep Fields, but if they go with Williams, then I don't know. Keeping Fields as a backup, I guess, would be the option. But I just think keeping Fields for one more year and building a team around him with another top 5 pick, I think they'd be better off. But we'll see. We'll see. See what they do.
On to some notable re-signings. I want to start out here with what the Bucs have done, re-signing Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. We talked about it last week that we both thought Baker Mayfield deserved a contract from Tampa Bay, and he got one, and they're keeping his number 1 guy and Mike Evans. And I really think this, sets the matchup between them and the Falcons for this division. And I really couldn't tell you sitting here right now who would win this division because I think it's going to be close. I don't think the Saints and the Panthers are going to contend. I think it's going to be between these two teams. I can see them both making the playoffs. But I really like the re-signings that the Bucs have made.
Yeah, I think the Bucs still have the advantage in my mind, but I do think the Falcons are going to put up a fight. The Saints weren't awful last year, but I think the Buccaneers are clearly ahead of the Saints, and I think the Falcons now are too. So we'll see. I could maybe see one of them taking a wild card spot depending on how the rest of the NFC pans out, because we also said the NFC North is going to could be strong depending on what goes on there. NFC East typically has a wild card as well. So we'll see how it works. But yeah, it's going to be a dogfight now between the Bucs and I guess the Falcons now with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Both teams have significantly better offenses, in my opinion, but I do think the Bucs have the edge on the defensive side of the ball over the Falcons. So if I had to make a pick for the NFC North, I would probably go with the Buccaneers. Also, given their experience in the playoffs last year, winning a playoff game against the Eagles and putting up a fight against the Lions. So I would take the Bucs, but I think it'll be exciting. I think both matchups between those teams will be good this year, and I'm going to be very excited to see Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield duel it out. But very deserving contract for Baker Mayfield. He played last year with a chip on his shoulder, and he balled out. So I think it was a great move for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go ahead and re-sign him.
I agree.
And last big re-signing, in my opinion, Chris Jones back to the Chiefs. Was obviously trying to make a deal at the beginning of last season. Didn't get one. There was speculation that he could maybe go somewhere else in free agency. But I always saw him going back to the Chiefs. And what's new? The Chiefs are going to be Super Bowl contenders yet again. Top 5 defense, top 5 offense, #1 quarterback in the league. The reign of terror continues in Kansas City.
I knew he wasn't going anywhere. He's a pivotal part of their defense. The Chiefs, once again, like you said, they're Super Bowl contenders. They're going to be right up there. As much as the Baltimore Ravens are doing and what the Bills might do this year, got to still have the Chiefs as #1. I also saw rumors, I don't know if it was official, but they might also get Hollywood Brown, the receiver.
Oh,
So
they did. I'm pretty
they
sure.
did. Yeah, so there's another one. So talk about bolstering that offense even more. You can't put anyone up as favorites other than the Chiefs in the AFC. So
They also got L'Jarius Sneed back at corner. Didn't let up a single touchdown in the regular season last year. So Chiefs staying just where they were. I would expect to see them back in the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC. I don't see anybody dethroning Mahomes. One last thing before we wrap up that I have just seen on the NFL Instagram. Aaron Donald announces his retirement.
I did see that. Yep.
Yeah, was not expecting that. Thought he might give it one more year. What a career. Arguably the best defensive tackle of all time. First ballot Hall of Famer, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Nothing more to be said. Just pure greatness from one of the best defensive players of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching Ndamukong Suh, and I thought there was nothing like him until I saw Aaron Donald. So that's got to tell you something. Just
all right, well.
No, Z, I don't think we should end it just yet. I think we should do a little something here. I think we got 10 minutes or so. Let's go through the divisions, right? And
Okay.
let's say the order of how we think each division is gonna kind of work out here.
Some very early predictions here.
Well,
yeah.
The trades.
We'll start out. We were talking a lot about the AFC and NFC North, so let's start off with the AFC North, just of what we've seen so far in free agency. For me, in the AFC North, just so far, I don't think the Ravens have regressed at all. I think they've arguably gotten better, so I would still put them at that top spot in the AFC North. Behind them, pending Joe Burrow can stay healthy, I think the Bengals will reclaim that 2 spot. Now, T. Higgins did request a trade, but I just think that even Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase themselves are too strong on the offensive side of the ball, and also with that strong defense, that they'll win more games than they did this year. I expect my Steelers to be 3rd in the division yet again. I see them at around 10-7, maybe 11-6, but probably 10-7. I see them in a wild card spot and could possibly win a game against a division winner, but that division is really tough. And then for me, the Browns are in last. There's just too many question marks at the quarterback position. Obviously, Joe Flacco went on a little insanity run at the end of last year, but you saw how it ended in the playoffs. It was too good to be true, in my opinion. I don't think Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback at all. They signed Jameis Winston, but in my opinion, he's a backup.
Yeah.
And the Browns consistently do this. They'll have one good year, their weapons will show up, but then they'll fall right back into that hole that they had been in for years before.
I agree with you. I think the Ravens are first. Steelers and Bengals are going to kind of battle it out, give the Bengals a slight edge, and the Browns probably not far behind them, depending on how Watson performs. But again, that's the best division in the NFL, and it's going to be fun to see how that pans out. Moving on, you want to go to the AFC South?
Yeah, just excuse me for one moment. My dog's scratching at the door.
You're good.
All right, we're all good. Shouldn't be any more distractions.
All right, so picking up AFC South, got
I think. Do you want to go?
yeah. I mean, I think you got to have the Texans topping that division once again.
sure.
I think you're building off momentum from last year, and I think you're going to have the Tennessee Titans probably back at rock bottom. Maybe slightly better. They did get Pollard, but I don't know. I don't see much going for the Texans, or excuse me, the Titans. As far as the Colts and Jaguars, they just haven't made any really big moves, and I don't see much changing in this division. I see it being pretty similar to how it was last year, and I think the Texans are only going to be stronger. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm really interested to see the way the Colts go because um, Gardner Minshew's gone. He obviously played well last year. Anthony Richardson coming off a season-ending injury. Um, I'm going to be intrigued to see the way that he plays. I have high hopes. I do think the Colts, in my opinion, will take second in that division. I don't like the direction the Jaguars went in at the end of last season. Trevor Lawrence didn't really impress me, and they don't have Calvin Ridley anymore. I'm not sure Christian Kirk's a clear-cut number one guy. They got Gabe Davis. He's also not a number one guy.
No.
Travis Etienne's a serviceable running back, but nothing, spectacular. So I would say that the Colts take second and Jags take third. And like you said, Texans at the top, Titans at the bottom.
Now I just want to interrupt you real quick. I just saw something also. Reports say that Ezekiel Elliott may also look into rejoining the Cowboys. So talk about the Cowboys situation. That would also be interesting if we got Elliott back. I don't know if that's the smartest move, but I think the fans would like to see him back in a Cowboys uniform and see how that goes. But
yeah, not sure. He didn't have a bad season in New England, but it would help cover up that hole in the backfield for the Cowboys. So it wouldn't be the worst signing in the world. They could get him cheap, maybe on a 1-year deal. $5-6 million, something like that. So that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
We'll see. But anyways, back to the divisions. Let's go to the AFC East. Bills and Dolphins, again, I think are the clear top two, but I'm going to give the Bills the advantage. I think they're just Josh Allen's got to do it one of these years, and I think this year he's going to make it. I think at least to the AFC Championship. I think somehow, some way, the Bills have to find a way to get really to the Super Bowl. But
I think the Bills could do it too, but they're leaving some huge question marks up right now, especially in free agency. They haven't made a lot of signings, and they've cut a lot of people. Gabe Davis is gone, and on the defensive side of the ball, both Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, and Tre'Davious White are all gone. Those are 3 essential DBs that are gone, and also now they have a hole at the wide receiver position. So
are you giving the edge to the Fins?
What?
Are you giving the edge to the Fins then?
I'm not saying I would. I'm saying I'm going to have to see how things play out in the rest of free agency and the draft for the Bills because they're thin at the safety and cornerback position and also not the wide receiver position. I can see them getting a guy late in the first round like Xavier Worthy or Adonai Mitchell. So I still have faith in the Bills. I would still give the edge to Josh Allen to win the division over a guy like Tua. But the Dolphins are a very close second, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting. I think the Patriots.
I don't see anything special.
Yeah, Patriots are going to draft probably Jaden Daniels or Drake May. They're going to be at the bottom of that division.
Same with the
And
Jets.
I could see a lot of people have high hopes for the Jets with Aaron Rodgers coming back, but it's the Jets. Like, come on.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know. I
it's
mean,
it's the same thing every year. I think they'll take third. I think they'll win 6, 7 games.
yeah,
Their ceiling maybe 8 and 9.
yeah.
Um, but
I could see Rodgers pulling off one or two nice wins against some bigger teams, maybe, but I just don't think they'll have the consistency as a team to be able to uh, just win big games week in and week out. I don't see it happening.
they have a strong defense. They just lost a good edge rusher in Bryce Huff, though, and Robert Saleh really hasn't been able to get that offense working at all.
No.
They just don't put up points. The quarterbacks go down. There isn't good protection. I like Brees Hall at the running back position. They do have Garrett Wilson, but behind that, it's so thin. Their depth is terrible. There's too much left on the table from the Jets for me to put them in any type of, you know, contention. So
Yeah, I'd leave him in the number 3 spot, 1 or 2 games outside the wild card
yeah,
is what I think. But all right, last division AFC, got the West. Chiefs got to be clear favorites.
and
And
I say Raiders at 2. I think Raiders are looking pretty good right now. The quarterback position, kind of mad. They signed Gardner Minshew, but he was good for the Chiefs last year. He can kind of be a bridge guy before they maybe make a big move for a quarterback in free agency next
yeah,
year. He's definitely serviceable, but their defense is looking very impressive. They
yeah.
just signed Christian Wilkins. They have Max Crosby. That could be a very solid D line next year.
Raiders
And
have always been on that borderline of trying to make it into
yeah,
that wild card spot, and I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but I think again, yeah, like you said, the defense is solid. I could see them definitely. They're going to be contending for one of those wild card spots.
I would put them at 9 and 8, possibly a 7th seed. The team loves Antonio Pierce. He's my favorite type of coach, a morale guy, rallies the players behind him. So this Raiders team to me is going to have a lot of grit. They're going to play physical and tough, and they're going to beat up on some offenses. So I really am excited to see what they do next season.
And then the Broncos and Chargers, I don't see their paths. We talked about the Chargers. We don't see where they're headed. And the
I
Broncos,
honestly, at this point, think the Chargers may bottom this division
they will.
just with, how little weapons they have on the offensive side of the ball. Um, the Broncos, though, too, at this point, it's really going to come down to coaching for me, and I'm going to take the more experienced guy in Sean Payton. Jim Harbaugh hasn't been in the NFL for a decade. So, I don't think Jim Harbaugh will be a bad coach. He just doesn't have a lot to work with right now. And Sean Payton's going to be the better coach in his given situation.
I agree with that. Moving on, we got the NFC. Probably got, uh, I would say, the weaker of the two conferences here. Not by much, but slightly. We could start with the North again. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, we'll start with the North. Man, I am gonna say Packers first. I don't know why, but based on what I saw last year, I am scarred by the Packers. I think they are going to be really good this year. Their coaching staff is incredible. I put the Packers at the 1, the Lions at the 2, probably the Bears at the 3, and the Vikings at the 4. But some people are going to say the Lions are the better team still. I don't know. I think the Packers are
I
going to get number 1.
I think the Packers will top the division just from what Jordan Love showed us, and they don't really have a clear cut number 1 guy, but they have 3 very good weapons in Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, and even Dontavian Wicks made some big plays, and now they have Josh Jacobs. So I think that high-powered offense will will them to that number 1 spot there. I agree with the Lions in the 2. I think Dan Campbell will keep that team in good shape. But for the last 2 spots in the division, I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm still gonna put the Bears in last. I think they're 1 year away. I think, they're just it's not really gonna piece together as well as people might think. Um, there's still, you know, holes on the defensive side of the ball, especially that D line. But and also for me, the Vikings, it really depends if they make a move for a quarterback.
Yeah.
I could very well see them trading up into that top 10 and taking a guy like, I wouldn't say into the top 5 to get one of, the better guys, but like a JJ McCarthy
Mm.
or somebody, because if you look at the weapons that the Vikings have with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison,
Yep.
KJ Osborne's a serviceable wide receiver 3, and now Aaron Jones, that is a perfect situation for a quarterback to want to go into, and a pretty decent offensive line there. So if the Vikings do trade up, which I can see them doing, and taking a guy like a JJ McCarthy, they could develop him, and down the road could be good, and I think that would edge them out over the Bears. Um, so yeah, that's just my personal opinion.
I would like to see that too. I would like to see them, like you said, trade up and get a quarterback, because also it would be interesting to see how the the Vikings and the Falcons finished with the exact same record last year. You can argue that their offenses have similar uh, firepower, just
I
similar,
would the Vikings have more firepower,
maybe
but
slightly more,
yeah,
but the Falcons also have upside potential with their offense. We haven't seen all of Kyle Pitts and whatever. So the Falcons, in the situation that they were in, took Cousins from the Vikings, and now the Vikings, if they take a young quarterback, we'll be able to see what team kind of comes out on top by the end of this year. Not specifically based on that one trade, but that's going to have a big impact on it, and we'll see if the Vikings made the right decision by getting rid of Cousins.
all right. Where do you want to go? The NFC
We'll
South.
move into the South. Yeah, we kind of already touched upon the
Yeah,
NFC South. I think we can agree that the Bucks will probably take the 1, Falcons 2, Saints 3, and Panthers 4. We
yeah,
talked about it a little bit before, but the Bucks, with re-signing everyone they needed to, building off last year's momentum, I think they're going to be the number 1 in this division. Falcons will be better than they were last year. Could potentially take a wild card spot, but yeah, Saints and Panthers, just not seeing too much promise from them. Although the Saints weren't bad last year, I don't know. I don't think they have what it takes.
yeah. Not sure I trust Derek Carr at this point in his career at the quarterback position, struggling with some injuries and stuff. And outside of Chris Olave, not too many weapons there. Alvin Kamara, not that top tier running back that he used to be. Um, so I don't see them contending. Panthers getting better. Got Deontay Johnson. Still have Adam Thielen. Some guys around Bryce Young that they didn't have in years prior. Um, but they're still in rebuild mode, and they're gonna have to take it from where they are. They would have had the number 1 pick, but they gave that to Chicago, so still an ugly situation down there in Carolina.
Yeah, the Panthers, unfortunately, uh, North Carolina's not doing the best in their sports these days. But
We'll get to the Hornets another day, Moss.
I'm going to the game tomorrow. We play the
All right.
Sixers. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, moving on. Got NFC East. Whew, here we go. Let's see.
Let me take the reign here, and then you can debate me, because I think we'll have very well, not opposite views, but some different opinions.
Okay, let's see.
As bad as the Eagles ended last year, I've liked their free agency so far. Like I said, the Saquon signing, very controversial, but he's a good player. And they
Mhm.
got back CJ Gardner Johnson from the Lions, who is a top tier safety and can also play corner. So I think that the Eagles will. I think they might have the same record as the Cowboys, but might have that tiebreaker and win the division. The Cowboys will be second, Commanders third, Giants fourth.
That's exactly what I see as far as ranking. I see the Cowboys second. Unfortunately, I'm just so frustrated because Jerry says we're going all in. We've done absolutely nothing. We lost Pollard. We lost our center. We're going to lose Tyron Smith. We're going to lose. Well, we'll start with that. We might lose some more pieces as we go on here. Van Der Esch, we don't know how healthy he's going to be. Running back situation is a disaster. We signed Eric Kendricks, which is not that much, but it's something.
He's a good linebacker.
It's something to add on, but it's not specifically what we needed. We needed a running back, and we didn't get one yet. So that's kind of the biggest piece. Oh, we also lost Michael Gallup. That's what I was thinking of. We're going to lose him.
He hasn't done anything in years, though.
No, but I think he's a solid wide receiver. He could be a wide receiver too for a team. I mean, I think he has the talent too if he doesn't get injured. But Eagles still give him the number one unless they have morale issues. That could be a part of it, but they have all off season to figure that out. Cowboys too. Commanders, again, I think they'll be better than where they were last year. They showed signs of promise. I give them 6 wins, 7 wins. The Giants, I think, are still a question mark. They could fight for that third place spot. I don't think they'll be like anywhere close to a wild card team or anything like that. But I would like to see a quarterback competition between Drew Lock and Daniel Jones because I know they paid Daniel Jones a lot of money, but Drew Lock is a solid quarterback, and he proved that last year. And I would like to see a little controversy there because even if Daniel Jones gets the starting spot, it might light a little fire under him, knowing that he has another like solid quarterback right behind him that could take his spot if he doesn't perform.
I think you're jumping the gun a little on Drew Lock here. He really only was given one opportunity at the end of the season before Geno came back, and he did capitalize. I'll give him that against the Eagles, had a game-winning touchdown. But in my opinion, we didn't see enough from Drew Lock, and he really hasn't been given that fair a chance. So I would like to see a quarterback battle in the preseason, but I do think Daniel Jones will edge it out because they were kind of banking on Daniel Jones being that guy for the Giants.
Yeah, but they have no weapons. So the Giants, I'm going to still
down the road, they're going to have to move on from both of those guys.
Yeah, no, they have no weapons, no promise. I don't see with the Giants, unfortunately. I'm going to put them at 4th place. Lastly, we got the NFC West.
Got to go quickly here.
Niners number 1.
Niners number 1 for sure.
Rams in Seattle. If Geno's healthy, I think Seattle's.
No, I would not put Seattle at the 2. I think they've totally mismanaged what they should have done in free agency. They got an elite defensive coordinator at head coach in Mike McDonald, and they did not go out and do anything on the defensive side of the ball aside from re-signing Leonard Williams. They were supposed to be the number 1 landing spot for Patrick Queen. They did not jump the gun on that. And, Geno's the quarterback, still kind of They don't have a top draft pick to get a guy. So I would put Seattle at the 3.
Put the Rams above them?
LA at the 2, and then the Cardinals in last.
That's fair. The Cardinals, yeah, not much to say about the Cardinals. Haven't done too much. Last year, they beat the Cowboys. They competed. I believe they beat the Eagles as well, or they competed well with the Eagles in that game. I think they beat them. But we'll see. I don't expect much from the Cardinals, but I take it back. I agree with you. I'd put the Rams at number 2 and Seattle at number 3.
All right, well, that's going to do it. We got another stream coming up here in a couple minutes from one of my partners, Jim Williams. So thank you for all tuning in to the second episode of Stark Contrast. We'll be back again next week to talk more sports, maybe something other than NFL as we get deeper into free agency and the content starts to die down.
Yeah, as we get closer to the NBA playoffs as well, we could discuss a little bit of that maybe. But yeah, thanks guys for watching, and check it out on YouTube as well, because right, we got this one on YouTube. So
Yep. First
yeah.
one on my YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody. Have a good
All right.
day.